What is up, everyone? Welcome to another Naughty Egg Draw. My name is Jake, and today I'm going to be making a camera. Not just any camera, but the camera from the new Pokemon Snap game. Now, this might be a little harder than I think it's going to be because at the time of recording this, the game has not come out yet. So I got like two very pixelated photos to work off of. So this is going to be fun. Okay, so the three main things that I'm using for this build are things I found on Amazon, and that's a phone camera grip, a cheap camera lens that I found, as well as a sheet of PVC plastic. So to get the design down, I measured out and cut out some sheets that would equal out to about the basic length of the camera with the lens on it. I made sure that the cuts would fit flush with the edge of the camera grip to avoid as much future sanding as I could. I also had to cut multiple sheets of the same size because a single sheet would have been just a little too thin to match up, so I had to make sure that they were stackable. To get the shape cut out to fit the camera lens, I just added some good amount of Sharpie to the backside of the mounting section of the lens and then just pressed it up against the plastic. This made it a lot easier to kind of get the starting idea of what I needed to cut out, and I could shape it all out after with my Dremel. And to do the fitting of this, I just kind of had to do trial and error and just kept shaving away the plastic until the lens dropped in pretty flush. Doing this kind of stuff, you want to be pretty patient and just test fit a lot because you can shave off a lot more plastic than you realize very quickly. So throughout this build, I utilized a lot of glue. I started off with using some liquid cement, but the liquid cement you do have to wait a bit in between putting the pieces together. So to save some time, I moved to just using some super glue, which works really good and really fast with plastics like this, even though I hate the feeling of super glue getting on my hands. I can't help but just like tear off my skin on my hands trying to get this stuff off. But it worked really well for this build, so I just continued to use it throughout the entire thing. Now, to add a little bit of weight to the camera grip side, I took some nuts that I had and glued them into a stack that I could put inside the hollowed out area. Since the other side of the camera with the lens was pretty heavy since it was the only part of this thing that had metal, I needed to add just a little bit of weight to the other side to kind of balance it out just a little bit. And the last thing I needed to do here was just glue the camera grip to the rest of the body. And the last thing I needed to do was just glue the camera grip to the rest of the body. I waited to glue the lens on until the end because I wanted that to lay on top of the screen section that I was going to make, and it would have been a lot harder to make that screen part with the lens already attached. After I got the grip glued on, I needed to make the little notch that was on the bottom of the camera. I actually almost forgot this part, but when I went back and looked at the references, I noticed I had this little swoop at the bottom. So I just freehanded this with Sharpie, but made sure to have the notch start just after the mounting hole on the bottom. That way I could use it to attach the camera to a tripod. Now, I do want to preface that this is going to be a prop camera and not an actual working camera by any means, but I wanted to kind of keep the illusion that it was a real camera. So to clean up the seams of the camera gaps, I filled it out with some Milliput. I thought this would be the easiest way to do this, and it would help kind of keep the camera nice and rigid since this stuff dries really hard. And with this stuff, it's just a two-part concoction that you need to do a simple 1-to-1 ratio and mix it until it's a uniform color. It does tend to get very tacky very quickly, just so you know. But this worked out really well to fill in the gaps, and I just needed to scrape away some of the extras that I didn't need on it. Once I had this thing all dried and sanded down, I took the whole thing out to the garage to put some paint on this thing and to start bringing it all to life. I started out with laying down a layer of primer onto everything, and then started laying down the base colors of yellow, blue, red, and black. The yellow and blue went on first since they were going to be the pinstripes that were going across the camera, and then once I taped the stripes on, I went in and added the red paint and then the black paint. And once I peeled off the tape, I was really happy with how all of this was starting to turn out. Okay, so I got the camera prop all built and everything, and I got the base layer paint on this thing, but now I need to make the screen that's gonna be on this. So it's time to get my iPad out and start drawing out what I want the screen to look like so I can print it out and slap it on the camera. Not this camera, the prop camera. You knew what I meant. So to make the screen, I went in and uploaded the best resolution shot that I could find on the internet of the screen and put it on my iPad. I just went and traced out everything I wanted in Procreate. This process was pretty simple to do, and I think the outcome was pretty close to what I wanted. Now with Procreate, the effects that you can put on things is a little limited, so once I finished tracing everything out, I went and threw that whole file into Photoshop to give everything a little bit of a glow effect to make everything look like it's actually on a screen. Now, when it came to the backside of the camera, I didn't have any references of what the camera looked like on the backside, and I just went in and kind of made up my own back screen. I grabbed a screenshot of the game when the camera is being used and used that as the screen of what the person would be pointing the camera at. And then I just made up some simple little UI setup of buttons that would maybe be on the camera. And I'm sure anyone who is watching this after the game has come out is probably looking at this like, wow, you got this thing absolutely wrong. But you know what? I can't see into the future, so this is what you get. But once I printed everything out, I just glued the two pictures to some really thin sheets of plastic and then cut them out. I put them on the plastic because the camera body itself wasn't perfectly flat, and you would have really noticed those imperfections more if I would have glued the pictures directly to the camera instead of to this plastic. But I think it worked out really well, and since the plastic was so thin, it didn't really raise the picture off of the camera body all that much. And then to mount the picture onto the body, I just used some good old super glue again. And you guessed it, I got a bunch of it on my hands. And no, I will not put gloves on. That takes like 5 seconds. I am way too lazy for that. But once I got everything glued together, I just needed to add some final touches to the camera to really bring everything together. I added a fake little button to the top left side of the camera, as well as some little painted details to get that little mwah to it all. But it is all starting to wrap up, so let's see what the final finished product looks like. Alright everyone, here it is, the new Pokemon Snap camera prop. I think this thing turned out really cool, and by now the game should be out for a day or so. So I guess we're gonna find out how accurate I made this prop. But with what I had to work with, I think this thing turned out pretty cool. But I want to thank everyone for watching this video, and if you enjoyed this build, make sure to check out some of the other Pokemon related videos that I've made, like when I made the Pokeball out of resin, or if you find any other random video of mine that you like. But like always, keep drawing, and until next time, bye!